that's just a taste of what audiences can expect at Awasowin, a collection of spoken word, nature sounds, and, of course, music. The latter is being spearheaded by conductor Larry Strawn and Juno Award-nominated cellist Cris Derksen, whose music was last heard here in Winnipeg in Toll, Wild Man of the Woods with Canada's Royal Winnipeg Ballet last year. Cris joins us in the Classic 107 studios to tell us more about this concert. Wonderful to see you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, that sounds so fascinating, these spider being that I want to get into in just a little bit. But before we get into the music of Awasowin, which is also one of the pieces being shared on this program, what can you tell us about the title and the word Awasowin and maybe where it roots from?
Yeah, it's those who gather around a fire. Those who sit around a fire. It's a Cree word. And I'm half Cree and half Mennonite. I like to call myself a Creenanite. And so this piece, Awasowin, came about it was a commission from Blue Ridge Chamber Festival, which is in Vancouver, actually. And in 2000, it was right after the pandemic, 2023,
okay.
I think, 22. Hard to know.
Time sort of blended together in that moment, didn't it?
Time blends, yeah. And the directive of the piece was like it had to be audience participation. And I've done a lot of theater as a composer, and I'm not really a fan of audience participation. And I was like, what am I going to do that's like going to be like cool with audience participation for chamber music? And so this idea of like sitting around a fire kind of came to me, and all the different things that happen around the fire. So there's a moment where there's like a scary story that happens, and then there's going to be a big storm, and of course we're all like participate in the big storm creation, and then it just kind of settles. So it's all about like gathering together and all of the fun things that happen around a fire.
Wow. So there's so much to break down within all of that, but the first question that comes to my mind is, as you're talking about audience participation, it seems like something of a risky proposition in a chamber music context. How do you approach that as a composer?
Yeah, and exactly. Like, how do I make it like not lame? How do I make it cool? How do I make it acceptable? How do I make it like engaging? So the sitting around the fire was really like the part of it, and like thinking about that campfire game that would happen at camp. I don't know if you ever did that, where you like rub your hands on your legs, and then you like start to like do the little like clappies and like the what are these?
Little snaps, little raindrops.
Little snaps, and then you like start to clap. So we're gonna do that. We're going to do that within the piece. The audience is going to do that. But there's also some other fun effects that I'm not too sure I want to tell you everything.
No, we got to have people show up for the concert.
Yeah. So there's also a lot of fun effects, and you'll get to walk away with a little token.
Okay, and we won't tell anything more about that either. This sort of it strikes me as this is sort of a narrative journey that you are taking people on in this sort of campfire journey, and yet this particular piece doesn't necessarily use words, and it's something that you have done sort of in your career. We alluded to the production that you did with Canada's Royal Winnipeg Ballet last year, and lots of composers have different answers to this question perhaps, but how do you then approach telling a story without words?
I mean, it's just sonic storytelling. Really, I think of composing as like it's all a journey. It's all about like that time that you spend together and the music is the journey, and it always is, no matter what form I'm working within. It's all sonic storytelling.
Okay, and the other through line I would maybe draw between this piece, Awasowin, and the piece that you contributed last year is that they're both out in the wild. What is it about nature that continues to inspire you?
Yeah, like we are nothing without the earth, right? Like she holds us. The earth is so important, and the nature is so important. And I also think, it's so fun to like emulate nature sounds with like classical instruments. There's so many like fun extended techniques that we can use to really make it sound like birds and sound like wind and sound like, the world around us.
At the same time, you operate in so many different natural locales that it strikes me that you might be bringing in sounds and techniques that maybe folks here in Winnipeg on Treaty 1 territory might be a little bit less familiar. And conversely, maybe you're bringing things away from your experiences in this place back to your homelands in Alberta. But even you're talking about British Columbia before. How maybe does your natural inspiration get peaked when you're in different places, and how do those things maybe blend together in your work?
I don't know if I really think of Canada as different places. Canada is so beautiful. It's such a vast country, and I've been all over it.
Yeah.
I've been so lucky to be all over it. And I don't really I feel like it's all one thing to me. It's not like of course BC has its oceans and mountains and stuff, but the prairies are just as beautiful. The sky is just as beautiful. The stars are the same. We're all under the same kind of sky. So for me, it's all all the locations are so Canada.
Yeah. You talked about the audience participation element before. You've also got a chamber orchestra coming along for the ride in this concert as well. And it's also a tricky premise to bring an orchestra along for these sorts of improvised, sort of natural sorts of things as well. What's their role in this campfire participation, if you will?
I mean, it's all about the story. We're all creating the story together, and that's the rad thing about chamber music and classical music is that you have such a larger band per se than just myself as a solo musician. So we're all creating the story together, and it's it's a group effort, and there's improvised, but it's very structured.
Okay.
Yeah.
We mentioned before there also is going to be a spoken word element to this performance, and also highlights your improvisatory signature style. And the spoken words, actually, I understand, coming from none other than local acclaimed author David A. Robertson. What will that look like in this sort of campfire context? Or maybe that's going to be an exploration that takes place in the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be in the moment. I've listened to the thing once, and this afternoon I'm going to listen to it maybe 5 times. But it's all improvised, so I don't quite know yet what it's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be a surprise for all of us.
Surprises abound in Awasowin. What do you hope audiences take away from this musical experience about their connection to the earth, which is, as you were talking about before, maybe more similar in different places, no matter where we are coming from to this concert? Maybe it's more similar than maybe we give it credit for.
Yeah, I want music to be relatable. I want music to be something that that the audience can feel, can relate to. So that's all I want is let's all experience this together. Yeah.
Okay. It's so profound an idea to just come together and to experience all of this. What is it about music alone to you that can help us make that sort of connection, that togetherness in a way that other mediums maybe aren't able to, in your estimation?
Music, because it's often without words, it's often a feeling, right? And it's often up to the audience to interpret whatever feeling they're experiencing. And I think I can often talk better through music about my own feelings than with words. So it's it's kind of esoteric, but again, going back to that relatability, I want folks to feel it and relate to it and understand it. And everyone can understand it in their own way. Yeah.
So we've talked about a couple of the pieces that you have written and are going to be improvising for this concert. The one thing that we haven't touched on yet is the piece that we heard a little snippet of off the top of our conversation here, Spider Being. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so Spider Being, this is going to be our second time doing it in Winnipeg with the MCO. It was actually commissioned a little bit. It's half commissioned by the MCO and the other half commissioned by Chamberfest in Ottawa. So Spider Being came about. My friend Carissa in Ottawa was like, "Hey, can I commission you for this short piece, this 3-minute piece?" And it has anything about a circle. And within Indigenous symbolism, there's a lot of different circles. There's a medicine wheel, there's like the dream catcher, and all these. And so I was thinking about the dream catcher, and I was going to write a piece called Dreamcatcher TM and like talk about how like dream catchers are not necessarily made by indigenous people anymore. They're often made in China and they're not necessarily authentic anymore. But then I kind of like went a little further and I was like, oh, what Cree people actually, that the dream catcher is Anishinaabe. It's not actually Cree, and I'm Cree, so I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about that. But then I was thinking about the web. And then I was like, oh, spider. So I was like, what kind of what is the spider to Cree stories? And I found this beautiful story about how the spider being up in the sky was the one who brings down the two humans through the silk and the web, brings down the two humans to Earth. And so this piece is all about, it's a bit of a creation story. And it's all about the spider who brings down the two humans. And in the story, the spider's like, okay, I'll bring you down, but you cannot look outside the basket. Humans being humans, of course they look outside the basket. And then, mayhem ensues. But this story is actually just about, coming from the sky world and coming to the earth world.
Okay. This is part of, I understand, also an upcoming recording project.
Yeah, totally.
For you in the next little while. What can maybe you tell us a bit about that?
Actually, this my next album is a mix between all of the different kind of worlds that I live in as a composer. So I do a lot of electronic cello. I do a lot of looping, and I also compose for symphonies and TV shows and documentaries and theater and ballet and whatever needs music I compose for. So the album is called The Visit, and it's just a little bit of the worlds that I live in. And so Spider being the overture is going to be on the album.
Okay. I'm sensing a bit of a theme here in this sort of gathering together, not only in this gathering together to tell a story, coming together for a visit, but also for a campfire. For this Awasowin.
For the moment.
Yeah. Why? What is it about coming together and bringing people together that will continue to drive you? But also, how has this concept of a gathering maybe changed for you as you've gone through your career and you've worked with different collaborators and you've worked in so many different spheres? How does collaboration look for you these days?
I love collaborating. I feel like that's when you get the new ideas. I also like working in different mediums too, because then it forces me to like think about music in different ways.
Yeah.
And so I don't get stuck into like one kind of genre necessarily, or one kind of, I look at some artists and they sound the same throughout their entire life. And I want to still be authentic to myself, but I also want to grow as an artist. But I think like the gathering in the audience, I heard that if you're in a theater together, the audience starts to get the same heartbeat going at the same time. And we all have that experience. And I think that experience of being together brings empathy. And I think we need way more empathy in this world, and understanding of different cultures, understanding of different people. We can all sit together, no matter what our backgrounds is, and experience the music as a pure thing, without the prejudices and without all of the other noise.
You talk about the growth that happens amongst all of us in gathering situations like this, especially with music. What do you take away from your work here in Winnipeg, do you think, into your other projects?
Oh, I don't know. I have great friends here. I've often thought about moving here because it is quite affordable.
We got that going.
Yeah. But I'm not too sure I can deal with your winters.
I mean, it's how different can it be from Alberta, really?
Well, I live in Toronto. Toronto's chill.
Okay. Yeah, but you got like the cold winds coming off Lake Ontario and it sticks to your bones.
It's not as bad.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we'll have you here for a longer time than just a couple of concerts. Then we can really put the rubber to the road here. We can really make that test, and we can make sure that we have Awasowin to keep you warm alongside. Audiences can stay warm with Awasowin on May the 1st. First concert's at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, second at 7:30. For more information, you can visit our website, of course, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app. Cris Derksen, what a joy to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
And all the best for the concert.
Thank you.